please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.
Hello and welcome to Young Turks, India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shireen Bhan. On the show today, we put the spotlight on internet-first new media startups. Now, the growth in smartphone usage, coupled with the fall in data rates in India, has spurred a wave of content creators that are targeting an audience which, for all practical purposes, are digital natives. While international brands like Huffpost, BuzzFeed and Quartz entered the India market first, domestic players like Scoopwhoop, Huffpost, Scroll and the Better India have leveraged the home turf advantage. According to a report by Traction, online-only media startups were ranked by the funding they received in the top 4 business models that emerged globally for publishers, aggregators, media networks and podcasts. Now, speaking of publishers, the United States houses the maximum number of internet-first publishers, with India ranking second, followed by Indonesia, UK and China. And while India has 260 publishers, the number of aggregators stands at 94. On the show today, we're going to focus on publishers. First up, Huff Post, a global player that's looking to expand its foothold in India. We also meet homegrown entertainment content player Scoopwhoop. And to complete the loop, we bring you the story of an online video analytics startup called Vidooly. Founded by media mogul Arriana Huffington in 2005, Huffington Post, or what's now known as Huff Post, started with a simple idea of being a megaphone for people to tell their stories. Today, Huff Post has 168 million monthly visitors across 17 countries and is the most shared site on Facebook. Interestingly, 50% of all Huff Post readers are outside the US, and they've had an India presence since 2015. Megha Vishwanath caught up with their global editor-in-chief Lydia Paul-Green in the capital to decode the publisher's India plans.
What was your approach when you started off? Did you want to turn everything around or did you want to just make minor changes along the way?
When I came in, I knew that I wasn't going to out Arriana. You know, she had this great legacy. But, you know, I think the idea was to not so much bring in another celebrity, but bring in someone with a strong background in in-depth journalism to think about what could be the next phase for this.
But another thing that you mentioned or you keep mentioning in a lot of your interviews is that you want to focus on original reporting. How do you plan on doing that at HuffPost? When you focus on original reporting, doesn't it put you right up against, say, the Washington Post or the New York Times that have huge newsrooms, large staffs? So what would be HuffPost's differentiator in that space?
Well, original reporting is not a new thing at HuffPost. You know.
Okay, more original reporting. Those were your exact words.
I think that the age of aggregation is really over. If it even existed at any point. When I was at the New York Times, just right before I left, about a year before I left, they created a team called the Express Desk that was really largely devoted to aggregating not from other news organizations but from social media. And in reality, aggregation has also happened across different platforms, right? The evening news in any country is going to be influenced by what's on the front page. And really, at the end of the day, it's about bringing new information to the world and doing reporting. Now, as you said, you know, the New York Times and the Washington Post, they have these huge newsrooms. But to me, it's not really about numbers. It's about deciding what are the stories you really want to own and how are you going to have an approach that differentiates you. And for me, the big differentiator for HuffPost is we have a very clear idea of who our audience is. And it's essentially not an elite audience. We don't see ourselves as serving the kind of people who ultimately are going to pull out their credit card and pay for a subscription to the Washington Post or the New York Times. We see ourselves as serving ordinary working people who nevertheless need access to high quality journalism.
But that brings me to my next question. Do you have any specific or India-specific strategies or you know, is India going to be a part of the bigger HuffPost DNA? And some of these themes would be common across all your international publications.
we're seeing a rise of ethnic and sectarian divisions. Clearly, that's been a factor here in India. Climate change, obviously, a big global story. Inequality is a big global story. So these are things that we share in common. And the wonderful thing about HuffPost is that in each of the markets where we're present, we have a substantial local newsroom that is reporting and telling stories for the people that live there. And I think the goal is that now we take it to the next level, which is to take some of those stories that actually do have the broader relevance and bubble them up so that we can share them with the entire network.
Okay, now the big question, right? Where's the money? And what are the revenue streams? Is new media facing the same challenges that the old media faced?
I think that we're facing them in a far more accelerated way than old media did, right? In much of the world, you've seen almost all of the advertising shift to digital, and of course, print dollars become digital pennies, become mobile fractions of pennies, and we've all seen that happen. And of course, you have the duopoly of Facebook and Google that are eating up 90% of the growth in the mobile advertising market. I think you've seen some bright spots. Certain, particularly legacy news organizations like the New York Times and the Washington Post have been very, and the Financial Times, I would also put in that category, have been very successful at implementing digital paywalls. So getting some people to subscribe to their digital edition, I think, has been a very positive trend. But I think where all of this is heading is to a kind of convergence, and where you're going to see a much tighter integration of content into companies that are serving connectivity. And HuffPost, of course, is part of a much larger company called Oath, which was created when AOL and Yahoo came together. And that, in turn, is owned by Verizon, which is one of the biggest mobile phone companies in the world. I think you're going to see a world in which the content and the connectivity actually come together. And the financing of the creation of the content will be integrated into what you're paying for your connectivity. That seems to be the direction that we're going in.
Just to understand the business model a little better from an India perspective, HuffPost in the States has become a part of Verizon. How does that change, or does that affect India in any way?
I mean, it was once the case that when an international media company wanted to gain a foothold in a new market, the first place they would go is to a publisher or a TV station. And I think now you're starting to see news organizations or content companies look to telcos as the partners, because you cut out the middleman. You just go directly to the consumer via the way that they're connecting to the net.
All right. Overall, what is your take on the new media, especially in India? Have you seen any particular trends emerge? I
think that the digital space in India is really where all the action is right now. I think it's incredibly vibrant. I'm particularly interested in how people are sharing information. You're seeing a lot of one-to-one sharing, via WhatsApp and. What's the other app? The one where you put your two phones together and you
share it?
Share it, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So this idea that even without having to use your own data, you can share a piece of content from one person to another, I think is really remarkable. We don't see that kind of behavior in the United States, but there's clearly a thirst to be able to share not just text articles, but really rich media, and people finding ways around the cost of connectivity in order to be able to share things with one another. There are a bunch of new players that I think are doing really exciting work. Scoopwhoop, of course, they borrowed a bit from the BuzzFeed model and really got into the kind of viral entertainment world. And then, of course, you're seeing big digital news and entertainment players that are cropping up here now. Vice apparently is coming into India. BuzzFeed has been here and I think has done quite well. The digital space in India right now is really hot. It's clear that there is a huge information-hungry population that's emerging. They're getting their first smartphones. They're getting their first, LTE data plans, and they're hungry to consume content. And I think there are a lot of people who are all lining up to produce content.
So the two big things that I picked up from that interview: aggregators you need to watch out, and content is going to clearly become a key offering for telcos. It is now time for us to take a break, but on the other side, we get you a scoop of Scoopwhoop, a homegrown news and entertainment content player, so stay tuned. On the show today, we're putting the spotlight on digital media companies. Here's the next one. Founded in 2013, Scoopwhoop Media is today one of India's largest independent digital content startups. The mother brand runs 3 publications, Scoopwhoop.com, vagabomb.com and gazabpost.com, and almost all the content produced is targeted at the Indian millennial. Overall, the team publishes 3,000 stories and 300 videos every month with 30 million unique users. Let's take a look at their story.
Satvik and Rishi were my classmates at IMC, and we weren't that great friends in IMC, to be honest. We knew each other. Post Satvik and Rishi both went on into the digital media sphere. They joined web, a copywriter.
So one thing led to the other, and I still remember it was a long weekend. So over Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we created a site. We made it live and we started writing articles. We thought that how difficult can it be to write a listicle? And we wrote one article, and within 12 hours, it sort of hit 2 million views.
So the first article that went viral for us was if Game of Thrones was made in India, then which Indian actor would play which character. And it was just like a fun article.
I went to my advertising agency, and one of my colleagues was like, dude, have you read this? And I'm like, what? And when I looked, it was the Scoopwhoop link. And I had a little smile to myself, and I was like, oh, nice. I played along. But yeah, that's the time when I realized that we were on to something big.
And our CEO basically got wind of the fact that this is something that is happening right under his nose. And he was gracious enough to sort of, instead of firing us, he basically not only encouraged us to pursue this, but he also came in as our first angel investor.
The team says that kind of support from the get-go was crucial to convert their side project into their labor of love. Apart from Denso Web Chutney's founder and CEO Siddharth Rao, the team managed to rope in Haresh Chawla, former CEO of Network 18, in 2013 to kickstart Scoopwhoop. A few months down the line, the brand managed to woo Bharti SoftBank and Kalari Capital, taking the total funding to $6 million to date.
Intent is the same. And the intent audience is the same, right? Whether you look at US, India, or Europe, or even some of the emerging markets like Africa. What an average teenager in a US, in a city in US would like to read and consume. Things aren't very different for an Indian teenager in India. Indian teenager sitting out of Delhi. What is different is their consumption behavior and their consumption patterns.
Soon after studying this pattern, the team realized that all brands are chasing one target group, the Indian millennials who are either consumers today or will become in the future. Having cracked the viral model, Scoopwhoop began pouring into genres like lifestyle, humor, sports, travel, food, technology, both in the form of texts and in-house video production.
We used to do women-centric stories under Scoopwhoop. But then, as a brand, we felt conscious enough to start a women's portal, and that's when we decided that we'll start Vagabomb, which will be, the core of it would be women. Then we also realized that the regional audience is a key audience, like reaching them, reaching to the audience is really important, and that's why we decided we'll do gazabpost, because a lot of stories that Scoopwhoop was doing was not reaching them. So we needed another pillar to get to people, and that was gazabpost, which was for the Hindi audience.
But not all experiments have seen success. In November last year, Scoopwhoop gave big slips to more than a dozen employees and shut down its news coverage operations.
Trial and error is going to be the part and parcel of any startup, especially a startup that is as young as us. One knows about BuzzFeed and Vice and Vox going through this thing, but even in India, Hindustan Times and an ABP also went through this churn in 2017.
If you look at the new media space, we're clearly the #1 when it comes to size and the number of users that we reach out to. But having said that, I personally believe that this is not a winner-takes-it-all space. But at the same time, I also believe that there'll be limited seats on the table, right? There'll be top 5 or 6 new media companies that are going to take 70–80% of the branded content advertising dollars that are going to be spent in this space. We just have to try hard enough to be one of them. But the real competition is from the Facebook and the Googles of the world, right? I think getting audience, getting traction is one part of the problem, and I think that we've solved very well over the last 3 years. But if you look at today, 90% of the advertising dollars, digital advertising spends, go on Facebook and YouTube and Googles of the world. I think the idea would be, or the challenge would be, that how do you sort of get brands to spend more on your platform?
But unfortunately for Scoopwhoop, 2017 was not just about downsizing. The publication was in news when one of the founding members was booked for sexual harassment by a former employee. This highlighted once again how it is imperative for the startup community to address this issue in a provocative manner, and it led us to ask, how does one build a healthy work culture, and if it raised a red flag amongst investors?
If you look at Scoopwhoop, almost 60% of the staff are women. As a company, I think the first step that we took was being very transparent with our employees and with the team in general. At the same time, what we've also ensured is that there are regular workshops that are done within the company to sort of sensitize people around workplace discrimination and sort of just gender balance.
With a team of 120 people and offices in Delhi, Mumbai and Bangalore, Scoopwhoop is looking to hit 120 crores in revenue by 2020. How? Well, going forward, the plan is to double down on vernacular content and video, both fiction and non-fiction, to achieve this target.
Satvik, Rishi and Sriparna here's wishing you the very best for 2018 and welcome to the Young Turks community.
Celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.
Welcome back, you're watching Young Turks, and on the show today we're putting the spotlight on digital media companies. Now, apart from content creators, the other big focus area is the online video market space. Startups are offering viewer tracking and analytics as well. As per a Traction report, since 2010, such startups in the US have raised $7.5 billion, while startups in India have raised about $181 million. One such startup is Vidooly, that raised $2.4 million from the likes of Silicon Valley-based Bessemer Venture Partners. Founded in 2014 by friends Subrat Kaur, Ajay Mishra and Nishant Radia, Vidooly's audience and content insights empower brands to refine their content, distribution and viewership online. Let's take a look at the startup journey.
The idea of Vidooly was conceptualized by friends Subrat Kaur, Nishant Radia and Ajay Mishra over a friendly lunch meet in Noida when they randomly started discussing the possibilities in the field of online video. Vidooly allows content creators, brands, multi-channel networks, agencies and media companies to maximize their organic video views, build an audience base and even earn more revenues. Since its inception in 2014, over 20,000 video content creators across the globe have signed up on this platform, and Vidooly's big data engine analyzes the engagement of over 500 million viewers and tracks over 250 million videos across 5 platforms including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Vine and Instagram every day.
We track over 500 million views and over 250 million videos daily. So we have a lot of historical data. So we tell them, A, what kind of content is trending right now. Someone wants to create a food video and let's say a North Indian recipe. I'll be able to tell you exactly what videos people are looking for in Delhi as compared to in Mumbai. If someone wants to create a beauty video, or let's say the marriage season is coming up, you want to create a lot of bridal content. What kind of bridal content works right now? What are people searching for? So we give them a lot of content recommendation. Second, once the content is ready, they need to identify what people are searching for to look that kind of a content.
The platform is built in a way to offer actionable insights to users and brands like video tag suggestions, the best time to upload, subscriber behavior analysis, influencers collaborations, and competition analysis. Vidooly claims its core technology and white label analytics platform is what separates it from the others. Currently empowering some of the big names in the industry such as OML, Videogyan, Group M, Mindshare and Web TV Asia to name a few, Vidooly currently has clients in across 40 countries using their software.
So the future roadmap for us is to track the same audience across all platforms and doing the entire matchmaking through our machine learning algorithm and helping all these brands and content creators to understand what is performing in which platform, right? So that is the future roadmap. Matching the entire viewership data and the audience data with all the platform. Maybe we can match this data, digital data, with the offline, maybe on TV, maybe on connected devices. I think that is the future what we see.
While the future roadmap is to become the go-to startup for tracking and analyzing video data, Vidooly has its eyes set on profitability as well. Charging a monthly pricing plan of $29 to $79 per channel based on the number of features consumers want to use, Vidooly also has an enterprise plan where it provides a full-stack dashboard clients with over 10 YouTube channels. Having already received funding of $1 million from Silicon Valley-based investor Bessemer Venture Partners in 2015, Vidooly recently raised its Series A from GVFL and Times Internet for $1.5 million. While the initial capital was deployed in building out the product and hiring, the team plans to use the current funding to expand to international markets. While the future sure looks promising, Nishant sees an urgent need to encourage new talent.
I think there's a huge dip in the number of new creators that have been emerging, and which is where I think we as a company also need to take responsibility in terms of encouraging talent. If you see, a lot of traditional players have come in, started putting a lot of new content, but there haven't been too many new creators. I think there's still a dip because these creators are not able to make too much money out there. So until and unless platforms like YouTube start paying up more, or brands start integrating more and give more sponsorships, I think it will not give that amount of an encouragement. But the positive side is with Netflix, Hotstar and Amazon Prime coming up, they've been doing a lot of original shows. They've been encouraging a lot of creators to come up as well. So I think that should probably encourage a whole new breed of creators, and probably let's hope for the best that 2018 is a year when we see a lot of creators coming up.
With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Young Turks. Do tell us what you thought of our show. Write into us, youngturks@nw18.com. You can ping us on Facebook and Twitter. Till next week, from all of us here on the team, goodbye and many thanks for watching.